Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today because I have some of the most exciting news. If you don't know already, I have launched my own line of stamps in collaboration with the beautiful Joggles, and so I have 6 stamp sets that are now available. I thought these out and hand drew every single element of these, and so I am so excited to bring you so many options of how we can go about using these. Now today we are going to be focusing on the Leafy Layers stamp set. This beautiful stamp set, these are all 6 by 4 inches, and these are going to be a one big kind of main stem, and I would call this like a hand-drawn sort of whimsical stem piece of foliage through the middle. It's pretty big, a decent size, and then there are 4 other little stamps on there, and these are, one is going to be completely solid, and then 3 of them have patterns or details on them. So let's get to showing you how we can go about using these, because you know me, there is going to be a lot of ways that we can go ahead and use just one stamp set. So there are 6 available, as I mentioned, and I would love for you to support me in doing this, and I have taken a lot of convincing to finally make this happen. The wonderful Barb from Joggles has been very patient and very encouraging, so I am very grateful for her. Right, I'm going to start off by just stamping out quite a few of these because I want to show you lots of things. So first of all, this is what it looks like on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock. You can see it takes up, the majority of the space, right? It's quite a decent size, and I want it to be like a main focal point. But, you know me, I'm going to show you some options of how it's not the focal point, kind of like this. So we can create other images where it doesn't just go plonk in the middle. You can stamp it off the top and the bottom so that we've created a space in the middle for a sentiment, or you can do it like I'm doing here. And what I'm going to do is sort of twist and turn the stamp so you don't get an exact you're not repeating the pattern perfectly. Sometimes you might have 3 or 4 leaves, you might have 1 or 2, you might have 4 or 5, and you can just create a little pattern going down the side. Now, as I mentioned, I'm just doing a whole lot of these at once so that I can show you a whole lot of different things that I designed to go and to work with this stamp set in particular. But for me to do that, I'm going to whip over a layer of clear embossing powder, and this just means that no matter what media I choose to color these in with, whether it be watercolors or inks or alcohol markers, or it doesn't matter, that means I don't have to worry about what's underneath, I don't have to worry about which ink I used to stamp or anything, and I just get to enjoy the process. So you absolutely can skip that step if you would like to, depending on what your preferred method of coloring is. So I'm going to start off here using a couple of dye inks. I am using a yellow and an orange just for the sake of showing you bits and pieces. I'll change the colors throughout. I'm going to spritz my entire project with a little bit of water, and then I'm going to spritz my also my yellow and my orange. I've just got these on a wee acrylic block, but you can just see I can just touch these down, and because there is water already on the cardstock, it spreads out beautifully. There is a nice big space in this beautiful leaf that you are able to create some fun effects. So I can also come in with my second color, and I'm just going to drop a little bit down the very bottom of each one of the leaves, and then you can see that it spreads really nice and naturally. If you want to, you can use a heat gun to dry some of these. However, I think you'll find it will move around the colors quite a lot, and you might get a bit more mixing and blurring than you might mean to. For me, I'm going to pop this one to the side and wait for it to dry to show you the result of what it can look like. Now, let's investigate these beautiful little stamps down here. Now, I will say straight off the bat, these are not meant to be a perfect fit. You'll see that each one of these leaves is hand-drawn as they are on the stem. They're all hand-drawn, they're not copied and pasted, they are not identical. It is meant to be a beautiful sort of whimsical looking and feel to the set. However, if you know me, you know that I do like some control. So I will just say, this is, I got sent over a couple of sets to have a play with, and so I can create some samples and all those sorts of things. So this set here, I would advise that you just test them before you go ahead and stamp onto your image for the very first time. You want to condition your stamps, you want to know how they're going to stamp out. And you can see this is in real time. I am using that yellow ink, that wild dandelion, and I'm going to stamp onto each one of these beautiful little leaves, and I'm using the same stamp. It does go out sort of the edges, outside of the edges, sorry, but then again, the edges of the stem, the large stem, are hand drawn, and there's a couple of layers to each one. So that does mean that even though they go outside the edge, it sort of doesn't as well. So that is basic. The one on the left is what you can start with. And then if we want to get a little bit more exciting with some of the layers that we can have a play around with, and as I mentioned, there is just so many options here. It can feel like a lot to tell you all in one video, but I will be using these lots and lots, obviously. So I want there to be lots and lots of ideas that you can get excited and create with these beautiful, beautiful stamps. So I am going to use actually the underlayer with the yellow and then stamp the orange on top. And that way you're going to see that the image, this little squiggle through the center, is obviously going to stay not inked up, and you'll see the yellow through it. You can choose whether you want to have a color stamped underneath or not. You can choose whether you just want to have the white showing through. Again, the pattern on this one, you can see the gorgeous colors popping through. So it just gives you another option that you can layer these up together too. Again, like I said, you might decide just to stamp it as is, and that's obviously going to leave it white. It's not meant to stamp color. It's not meant to stamp. It is meant to be blank, exactly like that. You could stamp in a particular sports team of colors, you could stamp in somebody's favorite colors, you could stamp in the rainbow going up here, lots of different options, but even just this, just using these two different colors is really fun, and lots of different variations that you can work with, and you can mix and match. You can just do one type for all of the leaves. You can do what I'm doing and mix it up and do some solids, do some patterns, do some layered patterns, all the fun things. I will say, pop in here and say that these stamps are only available at joggles.com. Joggles, in the lovely Barb that owns Joggles, is who I have collaborated with. She has been absolutely amazing to work alongside. I am very, very, very grateful. So head on over to joggles.com. I would love it if you support me, and if you can find something in these stamp sets that you think would be really useful in your craft space. Now, this look here is more organic. We are using these little beautiful patterns by themselves, not using the outside layers, and you can create really fun looks very easy. Nothing has to be too specific or too lined up. You can see that I have just done 6 there. I used 2 of the different patterns. Again, we're not changing colors. We've got exactly the same colors. I did have a little die cut piece of cardstock that I'm working on, and this can become a card front good to go. So all I do, you can either stamp one at a time, or you can stamp out 3 of the same one and then come back in and stamp 3 of the other one. Again, change up the colors, change up the patterns. There are 3 of the pattern ones and 1 solid one in this stamp set. And this is, again, just a super simple, easy, fun, not stressful, just really fun stamping. You could even stamp this in some Versamark ink, and then you could do like a resist technique with this. You could stamp this in Versamark and then put some Perfect Pearls or something like that over top on some darker cardstock, some dark navy or black cardstock. That would be fun too. So there's another thing. If you want to go completely away from the main stem, you can create your own looks and some falling leaves coming down too, lots of different ways. And then next up, I want to show you how we can go about coloring in some of these leaves, but a few different techniques to do so. Obviously, with the solid one here, I can come through with a beautiful little light green ink. I'm going to use a couple of them, and I can come in and stamp really quickly. Like, I can get all of these green leaves just stamped out beautifully and really, really quick. So I've got 2 greens. I've got a light green and a dark green. My stamping here was getting a bit splotchy, and I knew it wasn't the stamps because I know that they are good quality photopolymer stamps, but I did know that it must be my ink pad and it was a bit dry. And then look from here perfectly, you can see that the stamping is absolutely immaculate, so I knew it wasn't going to be the stamps. And then a really fun technique for coloring these. What you do is, so I'm only using the solid one here, and you can see for the darker green, I'm using a bit of a rock and roll technique where I am just rolling it around the edges of the stamp. This is the solid one, and nothing to say that you couldn't give this a go with the patterned ones as well, but I'm going to roll this around the edge. Now this is one idea if you want to stamp this down on top of your light green. I'm rolling it in the dark green and then popping it down. One idea of how you want to get a little bit of shading. The second idea is just to come up from the bottom, and I do like a half rock, you know, like you're rocking it onto the ink pad, and this is probably one of my favorite methods because it just gets the job done so quickly. The blending looks fantastic, and it's just a really quick, easy method. If you want to, you could also come in with like a a mini blending brush and add in some darker green yourself. It would not be hard at all to create a little stencil or mask yourself, and you could reuse it for all of these leaves, and you could do some inking up that way if you wanted to. But look how quick we got that done. Again, two-tone and just using the one solid stamp. Now, if you want to, you can come on in and add further details. You could, I'm just using a black fine liner pen to add in some of the middle sort of veins to the leaves, but you absolutely could come in and add lots of other details of circles and squiggles and do some doodling and that sort of thing inside of these leaves as well. I wanted them to be a decent size, which gave you enough space to either color them or use the stamps or do your own thing inside of those leaves. So I wanted this to be a larger focal point. For me personally, I don't even really have to do much else to this to create a beautiful card. I'm going to add a little get well soon sentiment, and then we could either add in a matting layer, or you could use the Wonky Borders stamp set that I have also released, which is my beautiful favorite wonky lines, all in a stamp set so that you don't even have to do them anymore. You could add that to add a border. I have just done a quick little matting layer, and then from the Foliage Foundation stamp set, I'm actually going to steal this little, I call this controlled splatter. So some nice little dots that you can add in. Remember, you don't have to ink up all of these. So I'm just inking up a couple, then I'll change into the other green and I will do just a couple of dots. Like I'm not inking up all of the stamp. There's about, 8 or something little dots all in there. But I'm only inking up a couple at a time, and that just means I don't get the exact same pattern all over my card front. And that is going to be a nice, easy, quick finished card for number 1. As I said, really, like you wouldn't pick that is just a beautiful big main foliage piece. You wouldn't pick that is just not a border stamp as well. So lots of different ways that you can go about using this gorgeous stamp set. And as I said, there are lots of fun options. This is the one that we did at the beginning. It's not 100% dry, but getting to be pretty dry. That one, we can do some doodling on that one and turn it into a card. Here is one where I did that sort of semi-inking, where I did half and half, but going the other way on the leaf. This is a card that I've previously made, and I did use my Wonky Borders stamp set to create those beautiful lines around the outside. Here is another one using the gorgeous Leafy layers, so exactly the same one. So it's this sort of style of stamping here, and I just colored these ones in with some alcohol markers and then popped some white dots on there. So many fun options. So I hope you are going to love this collection. I hope you support this. Please head on over to joggles.com. There will of course be links down below, which I would love it if you could support me. I am so excited for this, and I am so grateful to have you here. Thank you so much, and I'll see you very soon.